Hi, everybody. Hola. Bienvenidos. My name is Ashley Alicea, and I'm a senior developer advocate for games at Unity, here to talk to you about how to learn Unity and how to turn your game ideas into a reality and how to prototype with Unity. If you saw the schedule before, you might have seen my colleague Arturo Nunez was scheduled to attend this session, but unfortunately, he had an urgent situation and he couldn't make it. He sends his regards. He says hello. He sends many abrazos. And I'm very happy and honored to jump in his place. Really, the work that Latinx in gaming is doing is amazing because I personally want to see a lot more Latinx inspired video games. And so I hope that this talk can help inspire many of you to do that. So let's. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce myself, talk a little bit about what I do at Unity, and I'm then going to jump into a presentation to show you all the different resources and steps that you can follow to start creating your own game ideas. This talk is really great for folks who either want to learn game development but don't know where to get started, uh, no matter kind of your background or skill set, or perhaps maybe you've tried to make a game in Unity in the past, or it's been a while and you need a refresher on what the new tools are and what's kind of uh, the latest and greatest features to use. So this presentation will cover that as well. And I also want this to be an open conversation. So I'm going to be showing a bunch of resources. Please let me know your questions in the chat at any time, and I'll answer them live as we're presenting. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Ashley Alicea, and I'm currently based in San Francisco. I'm originally from Dorado, Puerto Rico, so Boricuas represent. And I really kind of came into my role at Unity because I've been an indie developer for many years. I've been very active in different developer communities. And really, what my role is as a developer advocate is to really understand and know Unity as a tool, as a game engine, and bring its capabilities over to all of you in the community to show you what's possible, to hear your feedback, to hear what you need, to hear what kind of games you want to create, so that I can then take that feedback back over to Unity and we can refine our tool to be even better for the games and projects that you want to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into my slides here. So unfortunately, I won't be able to share my camera and my slides at the same time. So, but you'll hear my voice as we're going through. All right. So, and I'm absolutely curious. If you are a game developer, if you're making a game, let me know in the chat. I want to know kind of who I'm speaking to, and like maybe I can tailor what I'm presenting up based on, if there's lots of devs in the stream or not. But tips and resources for prototyping your game ideas. So, what I'm going to review, the resources that I'm going to share are basically tools and resources for how to learn the basics of game development, how to find the art and audio and other resources that you'll need to bring your game to life, how to use Unity to create 3D worlds and environments, how to use it to create 2D worlds, how to use tools like visual scripting to create game logic and interactions for your game, how to create cutscenes and cinematics, and lastly, where to find community and online events and support when you need inspiration or when you're stuck. So, thanks all for joining in, and let's get started. So, learning the game development basics. Now, there is no one true path to becoming a game developer or learning game development, but one of the resources that I recommend the most to anybody is Unity Learn. Now, Unity Learn is our website for Unity classes, tutorials, and courses that you can use to kind of build up your development skills. It's really changed a lot in the past 2 years, and it's pretty much exploded with a bunch of new courses and content. So when you go on the Unity Learn page, what you'll see is, what current events are going to happen, what courses are coming up that you can sign up for, and you can also select different courses and projects based on what level of experience you're at. And one thing that I always kind of see in the community is folks who want to create a game, but they're going to start completely from scratch. They don't have any experience. And so when they open the editor for the first time and have a blank canvas, it feels like it's too much, it's overwhelming. So if you want to get started with making a game, I highly recommend grabbing one of the projects from Unity Learn. And for example, let's say you want to make an RPG game. There's a creator kit RPG game template that you can use, and you could use that as your base, swap out different assets that you want to use, modify it to your preference, and you can use that for your game prototype or even your final game. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use these tools to really kind of quickly get past the hurdles in your game development process. Now, there's a lot of resources out there on Unity Learn. I personally recommend these three as the top three that you should try out when learning how to create games. So let's say we have these three here. Rollerball is the classic introduction to Unity tutorial where it's a super simple demo that shows you how to roll a ball around a scene and collect some objects. And it doesn't sound exciting in concept, right? But like as you work on this, you learn all of the core concepts in Unity and you feel much more better and prepared to go ahead and create your games. If you want to work on a 3D game in a really cool environment, I highly recommend John Lemon's Haunted John, mostly because I like calling him Juan Limon. But it's another excellent demo that's great for learning the basics of creating a 3D game. But really, above all, what I recommend the most is checking out the carding micro game tutorial. And the reason for that is because it's actually a guided walkthrough that shows you exactly where to click or exactly what you can customize using a go-kart mini game. So it takes you from, a relatively empty scene to building out your tracks, having your player character drive around, and it shows you again everywhere where to click and go. And you can even export the games that you create and share them online as WebGF files, on places like itch.io. Um, Now, this is I think it's an excellent tool because you can modify it, how you want. I One of my favorite things to see is all the amazing cart mods that come from the community after using this tutorial, and we'll actually often have game jams to show how you can expand your skill sets with these tools even further, which I'll talk more about later. So cool. I'm seeing the some questions in the chat. Someone's asking, Unity is if Unity is not well optimized, how can a game be more efficient? It all depends on how you create your game. So if you are working on a mobile game, there's some optimization things that you need to consider versus working on a console game, let's say. But there's a lot of tools and resources to make sure that your Unity game is as performant as it can be, no matter what platform that you're working on. Thank you for the great question. Let's see, Ninjaza. All right, so finding game assets and resources. So another common thing that I see in the community is you want to work on a game. You have this amazing idea, but you feel stuck because you feel like you need a team of people to create it. You may possibly be, let's say, a programmer or an artist, and you want to team up with others to bring your game idea to life. When you're starting out with your first games and prototypes, definitely take advantage of the different assets and resources available for you to create the initial ideas for your games. Now, creating a game is absolutely something like a full-fledged, nice game is more often than not done by a team of varied skill sets. You'll have an artist, a producer, a programmer, an audio person, and the kind of place where people get stuck is that they think, okay, I'm going to need a whole team of people to bring this idea to life. But you can actually use the Unity Asset Store to find a bunch of either paid or free assets to implement into your game. Now, how it works is you go to the Asset Store and It has pretty much anything that you could imagine that you might need for your game. And I'm pretty serious. You can put anything in the search bar. Like I was like, could I find like a dancing iguana, I think, and I actually found one. So it's a really excellent resource to use. So you can use it to find 3D assets if you need 3D art, if you need 2D art. Or let's say you're like me and you're super tone deaf and you can't make audio to save your life. You can find tons of audio files to use on the asset store as well. Lots of filters to help you find the best of the best there to use for your games. And there's also plenty of free assets to use as well. And these are kind of what I recommend completely. There's tons of different, let's say, animation tools. There's, terrain tools that you can use. You can get different 3D models and art. Take advantage of these resources as you start to build out your game idea. If you feel like you're hitting a wall because you're not, you don't have the like perfect art, or you don't have, the programming that you need, take advantage of the Unity Asset Store to kind of get a leg up in that regard. Now, let's talk about creating 3D worlds. So, you may possibly want to create, maybe like an open world type game, or you want to create an FPS game. There's lots of different tools that can help you accomplish this. But my favorite by far is Pro Builder. So I kind of got started in 2D art in the games industry. I don't really do much 3D art, and that's specifically why I love Pro Builder. I can use Pro Builder to basically place a couple of points in my Unity scene, drag a couple of handles together, and essentially block out my level into different sections, kind of like you're seeing in this preview here. And it comes with a bunch of preset shapes that I can use to, for example, add a staircase instead of having to model the staircase on my own or find a specific staircase asset that needs to be perfect for my level. I can create a base staircase object in my scene and use Pro Builder to customize it and tweak it slightly to work perfectly in my level. Now it comes with a bunch of different features like being able to paint your meshes, being able to apply images like UV images through on it, like you saw just now at the top of the little island there. And it's a really great resource for even just, like I said, blocking out the your idea that you want, or even creating objects in your game. So let's say I need like a specific power up, or I made a game recently where the player needs to open like a gift wrap present. I made that gift wrap present in maybe about like 5 minutes using Pro Builder. You don't have to have any 3D experience in order to start working with it. But if you do have 3D experience, you'll find that it's similar to many kind of 3D creation tools out there like Blender and Maya. And it's really great for also learning those concepts of how to kind of create 3D models. So that way you can graduate on to, let's say, taking your Pro Builder meshes, which you can export out of Unity, put them into, let's say, Maya or Blender, and actually like modify them and make them even more complex and bring them back into Unity. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great resource. And the it also comes with two sister tools that I highly recommend. The first is Polybrush. Polybrush will let you more organically sculpt your meshes instead of kind of blocking them out with kind of like sharp edges. So this is great to create more organic features like land or maybe like creatures. And you can use Polybrush to do things like apply game objects to the Polybrush tool, so you could paint them onto your objects. It's a really easy way to add things like, grass and rocks, like you see this example here, or any kind of thing that you want to populate in your game scene. And second, the other really good tool for this is ProGrids. So this is one that is interesting because it seems like a very simple feature at the start, but I think it's possibly one of the most helpful for beginners. When you're learning Unity and as you're getting your scene assembled, it takes a bit of time to understand how to make sure everything is lined up correctly and that you don't have any gaps in your meshes, or that your building is all, like actually touching the floor. So by using ProGrids, you can set up grid snapping in your project So you can move your game objects and snap them along a grid to make sure that they're all lining up perfectly. So again, it's another super great tool to use if you're getting started and want to have that perfect placement of your objects in Unity. So someone's asking if is there a way to change static meshes into dynamic meshes in Unity? In the context of Pro Builder, there you can absolutely change your meshes at runtime. And there was another question, I believe. It's let's see, thoughts on Blender. I wish I could tell you my thoughts on Blender. I'm not a 3D artist per se, and kind of the most 3D modeling I've done has been in Unity. So, but maybe folks who use Blender can share their input in the chat. Great questions, by the way. So now let's say you're ready to create a game that has more realistic terrain. I am really obsessed with the terrain tools. And again, I say this as someone who doesn't have a lot of kind of 3D modeling experience and has really struggled creating realistic looking terrain. Unity recently updated its terrain tools over the past year or so to make it really simple and easy to create organic, natural looking terrain by using preset brushes that are available in the editor. So you can see them kind of on the left side in the where that palette there with the different brushes. You can apply those to your terrain, and by just applying a couple of brush strokes and like let's say like alternating the height of your terrain tile, you can quickly and easily create a really kind of a realistic world that your character can then walk through, let's say for your open world game or whatever kind of game that you want to create that has a more natural terrain. So you can get something like you see here set up in minutes. Now, what about creating 2D worlds? So when you are working with, let's say, sprites, or you're working with 2D images, there are different tools available in Unity to help you really optimize your time and save the amount of effort that you would need to like assemble them all together into your Unity project. I'm curious if there's any artists in the chat. Maybe let's say you make art in Photoshop or in GIMP. These you'll actually really like these tools. These will be great for those of you who do that. So now there's a whole swath of different tools, but basically the core of what they all do is that they allow you to import your 2D art, let's say from your PSD file, directly into Unity. You can save all your layer positions so you don't have to assemble everything manually. And it's you can then use our sprite rigging and animation tools for things. You know what? I'll even go back and show, let's see. I'll show this again. So like this here, we have sprite shape where you can, let's say, have a single tile sprite for your flowers, apply it on a sprite shape spline, and have Unity just automatically populate and duplicate that tile along that line. Now, with this example here, we have this character that we imported via a PSD, and through Unity, we're able to, just with a couple of clicks, add some bones to her and then move those bones around to create animations for the game. I saw a question, statement or a question about saying, let's see, I'm gonna scroll up and see if I find it again, that someone has always associated Unity with 3D games. Uh, Unity is used for all sorts of different kind of game experiences. It's definitely not just 3D games. It's also 2D games. It's virtual reality games, augmented reality games, console games, mobile games, kind of all over the map. It's and lots of great games that you're probably playing right now are made with Unity. I think Pokemon Go is made with Unity. There is let's see, Fall Guys is made with Unity. There's really a lot of different very great experiences out there that you can create with Unity. So so someone's asking, I thought Unity is the most used engine for 2D games. I think it might be. It's definitely a popular tool for 2D games indeed, but definitely for 3D ones as well. And then I also recommend this tool a ton. So this is the tile map editor in Unity, and essentially it's an artist palette that you can add your sprites into, and then you can select your sprites and then basically just paint them into your scene. They'll have their colliders and everything set up already so that when you add your player character, let's say, and add a little bit of physics, you just have a game level pretty much instantly painted out for you. So this is one of the projects that I recommend for folks who have a little bit of experience with Unity, want to give a shot at creating their kind of first original game. I often recommend making a platformer. So it's a pretty relatively easy game, easy kind of thing to create from scratch. Like even if it's like with programmer art, right? You can make a couple of different tiles. You can make a box for your character, and you can use something like the tile map tool to kind of block out your level and get more familiar with that level creation process. I hope this is helpful, folks. And if you have any questions while I'm presenting any of these tools, or if it springs anything to mind that you're curious about, let me know in the chat and I'm absolutely happy to help. My goal here is I want to make sure that all of you walk away feeling inspired and wanting to create a game, whether it's your first, your second, your 10th. I really want to see what this community creates. And I know there's already been a lot of great stuff happening with the Latinx Game Jam as well. Someone's asking, is there a built-in IDE for code yet, or is it still through third-party IDEs? So interesting that you bring this up right now, because when you, and also for a bit of context, if you haven't used Unity before, and if, basically you can create logic and interactions for your games using C# scripts in Unity. So that in the past has meant learning C#, learning those programming skills and writing out those scripts by hand in an IDE like Visual Studio or Writer, and then having that be like hooked up with Unity to execute the logic for your games. Now, the one thing I want to show you was a brand new tool that Unity has recently acquired that lets you do your scripting and your game logic in editor. So Steam Vent, the person who was asking this, I hope that this isn't necessarily an IDE like you're asking, but I hope this piques your interest as something that you can do in editor. And this is Unity Visual Scripting, which right now is known as Bolt. So Bolt Visual Scripting lets you add drag and drop nodes to your Unity project to create game logic and game behaviors. So in this example, we're adding a couple of blocks together to say when we press the space bar, have our little 2D character here jump up in the air when we press the space bar key. So she'll do that in a second now. So press space bar and now she jumps. Oh no, I'm so sorry about my dog. Pablo, come here. My dog likes to have attention for the stream. I'm so sorry. So yeah, so appreciate the Bork responses. Um, I would love to bring the dog. I will tell him that y'all love him. Thank you. I will. He is too big and chunky to pick him up and put him on camera. But if I could, I would. So anyways, so yeah, so with visual scripting, you can create this game logic and you don't have to have that scripting C# experience or background. It's useful to have. If you do have it, you'll go a lot farther and quicker with the tool. But I actually recommend this tool highly for those who are learning scripting or who are uh, wanting to prototype a game idea, because you could do it quickly and easily in the editor. And what I also like about it is, let's say you're working with other people who aren't programmers, by having it in this visual graph-based form, your game logic, it makes it more accessible and easy to understand for folks with different experience levels on your team. So it's a new tool in Unity. It's official right now. You can get it from the Unity Asset Store, and eventually it'll be integrated as a feature into the Unity editor. So yes, looking at the questions, the in terms of efficiency, it's pretty efficient. This is something that you can absolutely use in production as well as for prototyping. And someone's asking, does Unity only support C sharp or other languages? Right now, it only supports C sharp. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next section. So, setting up in-game cutscenes and cinematics. So, oh, someone's asking, does Bolt generate the C sharp classes so you can switch back to C sharp? So, at this time, no. Uh, we are posting some updates on our thoughts about that on our roadmap on the Unity forums. I'll share a link for that later in this session. But yeah, back to oh, someone's asking why I'm not saying the word blueprints. It's just because it's not called blueprints. It's called blueprints in Unreal Editor. In Unity, it's called Bolt Visual Scripting. So it's just a difference in the tool set. Now, when you're setting up in-game cutscenes and cinematics, in the past you may have done, let's say, a separate cinematic or an animation, with Maya and then into Premiere or After Effects. And now what Unity enables you to do is to create your cutscenes and cinematics right within the editor using a tool called Timeline. If you've done film editing before or audio editing, this tool will be very familiar to you. But instead of working with audio clips or let's say animation clips, it's or rather video clips. You can drag any game object into Unity Timeline, any animation file, any let's say camera that you want to work with, or like specific audio clip, and you can mix them all together to create your cutscenes. So what also helps with using Unity Timeline is Cinemachine. So, for those of you who have, let's say, done game development before, especially like a couple of years ago, you might have remembered that creating camera systems for your games was pretty intensive. You would have to create a lot of different scripts and, or find a good asset to handle that. But now, what Cinemachine lets you do, and lets anyone do, is that you can add a virtual camera to your Unity scene, and by using the settings that you can see on the sidebar, you can set how you want that camera to aim, how you want it to follow, let's say, a specific character. So I can create a Cinemachine virtual camera and say, hey, camera, please follow my player in a third person viewpoint. Or let's say set my camera up so that it's a first person view from where my player is moving around. Or I can have it, let's say, be on a dolly track, kind of similar to what we're seeing in this example, that it follows the character kind of sideways as it walks through the scene. There's a lot of different ways that you can implement Cinemachine to create these cinematic effects to your game without having to write all of that code to do that like you would have to do in the past. And it's really similar to how it's done in the film world. So you can select your specific lens. You could select your like specific film setups and rigs, and you could add like camera shake and stuff to your virtual cameras. So it's a really flexible and versatile tool that's accessible to everyone. So I recommend giving it a shot as well when you're working on your projects. And really what I want to kind of talk about the most is finding help and collaborators and community. So game development is hard. It takes a lot of skill and time and effort, but probably as many of us know, there's nothing more rewarding than playing an amazing game or seeing your idea come to life. And but even if you are, you know, whether you're starting games for the first time or you've been making games for years, you're going to come across roadblocks and times where it feels really hard. So I want to talk a bit about where you can find help and support and inspiration. And then I want to share some resources that can help you out with that. So one in the chat is saying playing a game you make is awesome. It's exhilarating. I think one of the most incredible experiences I had was as an indie developer. I created a one of my first games that I created and shared with the publicly was a Flash game before I was a Unity developer, and I it was presented on stage at a big gamers conference in Puerto Rico, and seeing my game on a huge screen with people playing it like on stage was just magical. And that kind of energy, right, is like what keeps me going for game development, because you can really accomplished so much. You would be surprised. I never thought I would get into game development. I never thought I would be a Unity developer. I started out studying zoology. My family back home in Puerto Rico was like, "You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer," or and so, you know, it was kind of a big question mark when I got into game development of like, "Well, will this work out?" And it totally did. It was an absolutely rewarding journey, and I hope that some of you can experience that as well. So the first thing I want to tell you about is some online Unity events that can be really helpful to find fellow creators to work with, to actually be in classes that you can kind of quote unquote be in person, right, as much as we can during quarantine, and uh, get to know different Unity instructors and the Unity community overall. So the first is Unity Learn, that tool that I showed you earlier. um, it has a section that's called the live offerings, the live calendar. And what it has is a list of a bunch of live classes, game jams, and different virtual events that you can sign up for and attend in person. They're so much fun. You might find me occasionally helping out with some of those courses. And what you do is, for most of them, it's you jump on a Zoom call. There's an instructor. They share a Unity project with you, and everybody works on it together. Everybody has fun in the chat, and then people share their games together in the Create with Code community, so everyone can see what they're working on and really kind of get inspired and get hyped together. The next thing I want to mention is also Unity's YouTube channel, where we have tons of on demand conference sessions, recordings, and community live streams. So, if someone's asking, how do you join these groups? Check out the links I have here on this slide. Unfortunately, I wish I could add it, type in the chat myself. I can't while I'm presenting. But the links here, learn.unity.com/live calendar, youtube.com/unity, the bit.ly links, these will all take you to different pages where you could find all of these events and resources that I'm talking about. At the end, I'll also share a recap of everything I discussed with a bunch more links for you to save. So Unity's YouTube channel has amazing live events. Often when we host a game jam, we'll have it through YouTube live streams. And we'll also have virtual conferences. So as you get more experience in Unity and you're very curious about a specific topic, like let's say you're working on a game that has really expansive terrain and you want to learn more about the terrain tools, you can go to Unity's YouTube channel and find a ton of talks about how to use the terrain tools, demos on how you can create different examples with them, and lots more. And then we have Unity meetups. I think for me, this is one of the saddest parts of work from home, is that I can't be with the community in person like I'm used to. So before COVID-19, what myself and other developer advocates at Unity did for our roles was we traveled all over the world to different regions and different cities. Myself specifically, I focus on North, Central, and South America. So when whenever I'm in my travels, I always try to find a local Unity user group in the city I'm visiting. I've been to groups in Mexico City, in Argentina, in all over the US and Canada and more. And it's always, nothing really beats knowing who's in your local community and having that kind of like local support, kind of a network of folks that you can get inspired by. And you, it's really fun growing up, right, and like, or being in a region and seeing your fellow kind of your neighbors and such essentially create their games, and all of you grow and achieve together. So sadly and clearly, a lot of user groups aren't happening in person anymore, but we are now having global Unity meetups. So these are virtual kind of user group events that are held over Zoom that are can help fill that void in the meantime, right? And you should also check in your area. So check out meetup.com to see if there's a Unity user group in your city. Some of them have been inactive since the quarantine, but others are holding live events, or they may have a, let's say, a Discord server that you could join. There's a lot of different ways to get connected with the kind of developer community on a local level as well. And in my experience, what's personally helped me the most grow as a developer and as a creator has absolutely been my local communities and the kind of friends and colleagues that I make in my area. So, community resources. So, in addition to these events, where can you go to find help and support when you have questions? So, there's a lot of places that you can go, but the main places I recommend first are the Unity forums. So the forums are an excellent place to go if you have a question, if you're doing some research. I pretty much guarantee you, especially if you're getting started with Unity, if you have a question, 99.9% chance somebody asked an identical question on the forums. I feel like probably most game developers, it's like this is how it it works, right? Like you get stuck, you have a question, you Google it or you search it on the Unity forums, you find the solution, you keep going. So I encourage y'all to do that. Um, oh, I see there's 245 raised so far for Panthera and Gameheads in the chat. That's amazing. Folks, please donate to these amazing groups. And Panthera is amazing. I love Gameheads, inspiring kids to create games. They're doing excellent work creating the next generation of game creators. So definitely donate if you can. It's an amazing program to support. I've helped with a couple of game head events myself, and they're really truly excellent. Someone in the chat is asking, Unity is for video game developing, right? Yes, Unity is for creating video games. Actually, more than video games. You'd be surprised at what people make using Unity. We have not just game developers using it, but lots of people in architecture, people in the automotive industry, people who work with virtual reality, making animations and cinematics. There are TV shows made with Unity now. There's a lot of different ways that you can use the tool. So in addition to using the forums as a resource, check out the official Unity Discord. This is pretty relatively new. So it's our official Discord where you can have casual chats about what you're working on. We have specific channels to show off your work, and we have project showcases. It's also a great place to just go and ask your questions, just figure out kind of what direction you need to go in. So check out the Discord. It's a lot of fun. And lastly, specifically because I'm here on the stream with you all with Latinx in gaming, we also have resources through Unity Latino America. So we have our Facebook account, we have our Twitter account, we also have an account on YouTube. But basically, these are your sources for finding Unity news and updates and resources in English and in Spanish. So especially on the YouTube channel is where you could find Spanish versions or recordings of a lot of the content that Unity posts on its main channel. So, si estás viendo esto y estás más cómodo viendo contenido y todo en español, recomiendo que vas a la página de Unity Latinoamérica en Facebook y en Twitter y en YouTube. So, oh, I'm glad to hear that this has been encouraging, and I really hope that that folks try starting to make a game. And I really challenge you, if you've been wanting to make a game but you're not sure or you're cautious, at least try one of the tutorials because it's really it's just fun even just to say that even if you don't want to make games, having that experience of making a small little demo is really fun and empowering. So now it's the rest of my time here is just to quickly recap everything I was discussing and also, take any questions. So again, for finding great resources, yes, screenshot this. This is the slide that you want for all the resources that I shared here in this presentation. Um, learn.unity.com. The for all the tutorials and project files and everything that you can imagine to create your game projects pretty easily. There's the asset store to find all your assets. Pro Builder to create 3D models and objects for your scene without leaving the Unity editor. Using the terrain tools for creating natural terrain. 2D animation and tile maps for working with and animating sprites and 2D art for your games, visual scripting to create drag and drop game code and logic, and let's see, the timeline and cinemachine tools for creating cinematics and cutscenes. And lastly, a lot of those Unity links and resources that I showed earlier are also available on unity.com/community. Now, I see a couple of questions in the chat. So someone was asking, can I get help on the Discord? If you mean the Unity Discord, yes, you can absolutely ask your development questions there for sure. Someone else asked, do you still need to do you still need to make games if or sorry, I'm reading two questions at once. The do you need to know programming or scripting to make a video game? In the past, maybe, but now with tools like Unity Visual Scripting and Bolt and other tools in other engines, you can make a game without having that programming experience. I think it helps to learn a little bit. Learning the logic, I think, is the most important part. So understanding things like what's an if statement or how you want to kind of branch your logic. It's not necessarily about the syntax or the code, but more about like that logic and structure, so you can think about critically how you want your game logic to flow out, right? So in that kind of visual scripting example that I showed, knowing the logic of when I press the space bar, apply this change to a character. If you are, if an enemy touches a player character, right? If enemy touches player character, reduce health by 5, right? That kind of logic will take you a long way as you're learning your how to make games. So let's see. There's a lot of questions coming in. Forgive me, I'm scrolling back up to catch them all. So can I still make games even if I'm not Latinx? Yes, of course, anyone can make games, but really this weekend is a particular celebration of our Latinx community. So thank you for being here. It's really awesome that you are. But yeah, of course, you're welcome to make games as well. Let's see. Scrolling through to see more questions. Is Unity Pro Builder particularly more robust? I think it depends on what you define as robust. It's I think it's robust for what I need, and my needs are specifically blocking out a level or creating, let's say, placeholder assets for my games. But there are people who have created entire games using Pro Builder. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this because I'm not sure I remember correctly. I believe Superhot and Manifold Garden use Pro Builder extensively in their creation process. So it all depends on, what you can create, right? Also, I'm not a skilled 3D artist, but I know that people who do have really great 3D art skills can do a lot more with Pro Builder than I could. So it also depends on your skill level as well. Thanks for the great question, the Nintendo nerds. Let's see, scrolling through. Jet Set is asking, which of the tools demo do I use the most in personal projects? So personally, what I'll use for when I'm prototyping something is if it's, and normally the kind of games I work on now, like as my role as a developer advocate, I work on demos that our community can use as a reference. So if a specific type of demo is in demand, let's say where I'm getting a lot of requests on how to make a platformer with Bolt visual scripting, I might take an existing platformer game template from the asset store or Unity Learn, modify that, add the other features and tools that I'm working with to that project to create the final game that I then share with the community. So, but sometimes if I'm making, let's say, my games from scratch, I might use Unity Learn if I'm, let's say, learning something new in the editor. Let's say, like, lately I'm learning how to, work with 3D animations because I really want to kind of improve my 3D animation skills. I will check Unity Learn to watch some videos and get familiar with that process. I might use resources on the asset store. And there's also lots of resources that aren't in the Unity ecosystem as well. I want to say this, like, don't feel limited by just what we offer. You can find lots of additional content. You can get a ton of animations for your games on Mixamo. You can find lots of resources and game assets on sites like Itch. So there's really, it all depends on the project, but I would say by far most of my demos at least use um, visual scripting, timeline in Cinemachine, and Pro Builder. Let's see. Can't keep up with the chat. I'm like scrolling on my phone. So let's see. So can you make a Twitch chat game with Unity? Yes, you absolutely can. Um, I can't remember the name of the game, but like there are Twitch games out there, and you can implement Twitch interactivity for your game so that folks can play it on Twitch, and you can interact through the chat and such. What is the one? So the Greek life is asking, what is the one piece of advice you wish you received when you first started out? Um, Not to make a huge, gigantic game. When I first discovered game development, I think I got a little bit hype about it and got really into it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make like this open world game. And I feel like this is like a classic thing that everyone goes through when creating, their first video games. You're so excited that you start out really big. Start out really, really small. I think the best advice I got was to clone an incredibly simple arcade game as my first project. So one of the first things I cloned was Galaga, like that space shooter game. So imitate something like that, or making a basic tic-tac-toe game. It sometimes isn't the most exciting thing to work on, or something that you don't particularly care about, but it's not about what you're creating. It's about learning the tools and getting comfortable with them, so that way when it's time and you're ready to make your game, you know where to go, you know how to get started, you know what to do if you get stuck, and it's a lot more easier to make your games that way. So my advice to you all is start out small, use one of the learn templates to get started, and like start making by making a mod. Start really small, and then as you grow, you can see the progress that you make really, really quickly versus starting out with a big game. All right, I have like maybe a few more minutes, so I'm going to answer just a couple more questions. Any resources or places that I would recommend to find a job in gaming? It all depends on what you want to do. But if you are a Unity developer, or you want to be a programmer, or really, I guess, any role, there are lots of open roles available at Unity. So check out our careers page. We have a lot of new remote positions that are open. There are in the Unity forums, there's a place where people post job postings for when they need developers or technical artists and more. There and honestly, for finding jobs, I recommend being in communities like Latinx in gaming, or your local game development communities, or local Unity user groups, because really I think, at least for me, where I've found out about a lot of open roles was through my local developer community. Let's see. What are some secret cool things found in the Unity asset store? Um, I love Corgi Engine. That's one of my favorites. It's pretty much an entire mini little game system within Unity, but it uses corgis, and it is adorable and perfect. There are also really cool assets out there like Peak, which, if you're an experienced Unity developer, you can use tools like this to really kind of quicken the processes and tools that you use. There's a lot of good stuff out there. It's really worth just digging through the asset store and finding a bunch of gems. All right, folks. So let's see. I think that, let's see. Yeah, cool. Someone's asking, is my dog a bloodhound? They sound like a bloodhound. He is not. I bet he wishes he was. He is a very old, dopey Springer Spaniel mix. His name is Pablo. Sorry again for his interruption. I can't bring him on camera, but yeah, he's a Yeah, like a mixed mutt. But he's very cute and very old. He's 13, so he has opinions to share. But all right, so that's it for me. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. I hope that you learned something new. I hope that this was inspiring. Muchísimas gracias to everyone who has joined. If you have any questions at all, if you're watching this and you want to learn Unity or you have a game development question in general, reach out to me, out of Ashley. I would love to help you out and make sure you can find the resources and support that you need. So take care, everyone. Felicidades to the Latinx and gaming crew. Thank you for having me, and we'll see y'all soon. Take care, everyone.